Hello and welcome to the video. This is a quick video on a new model from ZOHD. Well, it's not a new model actually, it's kind of a version of a model that we know very well in different coloured foam. Specifically this thing here. This is my original ZOHD drift, and in fact you might have seen it recently. I did a video where I added walk snail in the nose. So this is actually a walk snail HD drift. And I am currently in the process of going through and kind of re-evaluating it. And I've been doing that for about 2 or 3 weeks because it kind of relies on the weather getting better. However, ZOHD have just released a new version of it, their first model in quite a long time, called the Dark Breeze. But essentially, it's a drift in black. Now, lots of pilots I know have a love-hate relationship with this. People either love this or hate it. I am actually a fan of the drift, but I do think you need a stabilizer in it. Now, I thought it would be interesting, because I've only literally just got this in, to make a quick video, show you what it is, what it isn't, and also what I think this means for ZOHD. So let me jump on the bench and start unpacking it while I kind of go through some of my thoughts. Now, I'll be honest, I'd pretty much written ZOHD off at this point. I loved their models. I have everything that they ever made. So things like the ZOHD Dart that I did recently, things like the Dart XL, the Drift, obviously. I've still got my original one and I've updated it to walk snail so I can fly it on warm, sunny, still evenings. They had a classic lineup, and I was a fan of the Copilot Light Stabilizer too. They kept bringing out inventive modern models designed around what was happening in the hobby, and every time I got an email from ZOHD, my heart would make a little skip, because it usually meant that they were bringing out something that was a little bit different and a little bit unusual. Their sister brand, Sonic Model, made the AR Wing Mini that many of us fly, myself included, and the original AR Wing, and I was lucky enough to be involved in the creation of design of the AR Wing Pro. Things were great. Sure, they weren't the cheapest, but all of my flying buddies who got one of their models had a good time. Then it all started to go a little bit wrong. They had the Alpha Strike in September 2021. That was okay. It wasn't quite up to their usual standard. It was a bit of a deviation away from their standard layouts. And then the terrible Delta Strike, which was the EDF version of that, came in December 21. And I wasn't a fan of that. It wasn't a very well set up EDF. There wasn't enough of an exhaust, central gravity with issues. There were some weird decisions about having a pan and tilt setup on the back. It was a bit odd. And then after December 21, we kind of heard nothing from them at all. Apart from them releasing the Talon GT as a kit in the middle of 2022. And that almost felt like they were doing that because they'd run out of RTF components and were just trying to get rid of the foam. And it started to become problematic for those of us that had the older models, because getting hold of spares and replacement foam for when we broke our beloved Drift, Dart XL, the original Dart, all those kind of things, the Talon Pros, were getting trickier. Now this black Drift is the first new model in well over 2 years, and hopefully as a sign that they're back. In the past 2 years, many other vendors have really stepped into the gap left by ZOHD and brought us some stunning stuff. So imagine my surprise when after almost 9 months of zero contact, I get an email out of the blue and have a little heart skip again. So in terms of the new version of the Drift, here are the headlines. It's basically exactly the same model. This time it's in a denser black foam. More on that in a moment. The design of the Drift is identical, as far as I can see, to my original white version, with the same hatches, catches, and toolless and glueless build. Same motor on this as well as my original. It's a 1406 2600 kV motor. It's the same spec as my original, however the design is a little bit different, and you also get the 2 sets of props, one for a 2S setup and one for a 3S setup, so you can decide whether you want to power it from a 2S lithium ion or a small 3S LiPo, which is what I do here. Again, no rudder, and the 2 wings connect into the body using a small spar and a single plastic thumb screw as normal, and that's the way you put the tail together as well. All of the foam, from what I can see here, are exactly the same dimensions, and the CG marks are in the same place as well. I know one of my Patreons was talking about the fact that they'd had issues with the CG position. I and none of my flying buddies have had that here, but then we're all flying it with flight controllers or a co-pilot in it. Now there's still a lot more room in here than you would expect, even though it's quite a lightweight, thin model. The top hatch, you've got room for a small flight controller or stabilizer and a place for a GPS. Battery compartment is a reasonable size. There's space in the camera for the nose. That's really designed for the ZOHD VC400 unit, as well as space in the belly for a receiver and other things too. So I guess the big question is, okay, so this is a black drift. It's called a dark breeze, but let's face it, it's a black drift. How does the foam compare? Well, the finish is good and it feels a little denser and a little stiffer than the white foam. And the weight of this model without a prop, without any other electronics in, is about 169 grams. Now I've built mine out, as I said in the introduction, with a co-pilot and a walk snail system, so I can't kind of put both of them on the scale and get a like-for-like weight. But I can take the wings off and weigh them individually to see what the difference is between the wings. They both appear to have plastic geared servos, and the white model wing weighs 29 grams. The black model wing weighs 35 grams, so it's an increase in the weight of the foam, about 20% from what I can see here. So I asked ZOHD, what the heck happened? Why did you disappear to for a year? And it appears that a lot of their staff are remote, and the COVID restrictions and travel restrictions in China really badly affected them in terms of maintaining momentum, innovating, bringing out new designs, collaborating. All that stuff was really impacted. However, that seems to be behind them now, and they seem to be back with a vengeance. I hope now that this means that now they're back with something to prove after being away for a little while, that we get some updates on some of the technology. For example, the VC400 that goes in the nose, I'm not a fan of that. I think it's a potato camera. I would love a more updated version. And also the co-pilot light. I think I would love, if that's a co-pilot light, let's have the full fat co-pilot. Could that have an OSD in it? That would be amazing. Hopefully all that stuff is on a drawing board somewhere in ZOHD land, and we're going to see it in the next 18 months. There's only a few things to comment on while I've been looking at this here. First and foremost is that I think I probably would recommend, with the other one, you pop in something like a co-pilot or a small flight controller. I think it makes them a lot nicer to fly, and also if you are going to put any nice equipment in it, having the co-pilot does mean with the GPS in here you've got your return to home as well. The decals in the box, or decals depending on how you want to say it, are black as opposed to white. It would have been a nice touch, ZOHD, if you'd give us white decals to go on black foam, because black decals on black foam are going to be hard to see. So maybe for future batches that might change. So I've got my fingers crossed that this is the first in a new lineup from ZOHD, and not only are we going to get new foam versions of older models, that we're going to get some new designs as well. Personally, I would like one of these that was a little bit bigger. I would like a Drift XL, something with slightly longer wings, something with a slightly longer tail, a little bit more room inside for lithium-ion batteries, and a full-size flight controller. That would be a pretty fantastic thing. Hopefully that's on the drawing board as well. I genuinely don't know all this. I've just got my fingers crossed and dropping some heavy hints, ZOHD, if you're watching the video. So stay tuned. I will keep a close eye on ZOHD now that they appear to be back. I am so pleased that they are. I've been a fan of ZOHD for a very long time, and hopefully this is the first of lots of cool stuff we're going to start to see from them this year. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organized into easy to follow playlists that, if you're trying to learn a topic, will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.